Okay. Let's set the scene. It's Christmas morning, the most wonderful, magical, super-duper cozy day of the entire year. Snow is falling like powdered sugar. The air smells like gingerbread and pine needles. And inside the coziest little cabin you've ever seen, a group of friends were having the most perfect, most peaceful, well, you get the picture. It was supposed to be a completely normal Christmas day. Right? Giggles. Wrong. So wrong. Inside, our favorite fuzzy crew was in full-on festive mode. There was Barnaby the bear, our big, lovable, and, let's be honest, spectacularly clumsy hero. He was handling the ornaments with the delicate touch of a giant bear trying not to break tiny glass balls. Then you have Penelope the penguin, the brains of the operation. She was in charge of quality control, ensuring every single decoration was up to her exacting standards. And of course, Squeaky the squirrel, our little hyperactive ball of energy, who believed that if something wasn't covered in tinsel, it simply wasn't festive enough. Even wise old Oliver the owl was getting into the spirit, providing moral support and looking very, very sparkly. Everything was perfect. The fire was crackling, the cocoa was hot, the tree was almost finished. All that was left was the final, most important piece, the star. This wasn't just any star, mind you. This was the star, the big one, the grand finale, the sparkly cherry on top of their Christmas sundae. And this year, the honor of placing it atop the tree fell to Barnaby. Whispers dramatically. A huge responsibility. He took a deep breath, his chest puffed out with pride. He looked at the star. He looked at the tree. He looked at his friends, who were all watching with bated breath. Penelope gave him a little encouraging nod. Squeaky was vibrating with excitement, nearly shaking all the tinsel off the lamp. Oliver just blinked, which for him is basically a standing ovation. This was his moment. He grabbed the stepladder. Maybe a stepladder that was too small for a bear of his impressive stature, but his heart was in the right place. He placed one paw on the first step. So far, so good. Another step. The ladder let out a tiny, nervous creak. Nervous giggle. Don't worry, it's fine. Everything is fine. He kept climbing, his eyes locked on the target. Up he went. The star held out in front of him like a sacred treasure. The air was thick with anticipation. You could hear a pine needle drop. He stretched his arm out, his fingers just about to touch the top branch. He was going to do it. He was going to be the hero of Christmas. And then it happened. The moment that turned their perfect, peaceful Christmas into this story. In his laser-focused quest for glory, Barnaby had failed to notice one tiny, very important detail. A stray loop of Christmas lights, innocently lying on the ladder step. His foot went in, the lights went taut, and for a split second time stood still. Barnaby looked down at his foot. His foot looked back up at him. The Christmas lights gave a little twinkle, as if to say, uh-oh, and then chaos. The ladder wobbled violently, throwing Barnaby off balance. He let out a squeak that was very un-bear-like and pinwheeled his arms, trying to regain his balance. But it was no use. The laws of physics, it turns out, apply even on Christmas. The star flew from his grasp, soaring through the air like a golden comet of calamity. It ricocheted off Oliver's head, bowing, sending his glasses spinning. It then bounced into a perfectly stacked pyramid of presents, triggering a colorful avalanche of gift-wrapped boxes. The final box hit the edge of a tray, launching a dozen freshly baked gingerbread men into the air like little edible paratroopers. Squeaky, of course, saw this not as a disaster, but as a snack-based opportunity, and launched himself into the fray, trying to catch them all in his mouth. Meanwhile, Barnaby, who was now wearing the Christmas lights like a very sparkly, very tangled scarf, finally completed his journey by crashing directly into the Christmas tree. Gasps. The whole tree shuddered from top to bottom, shedding ornaments like a pine tree sheds its needles, Red balls, blue snowflakes, and silver bells rained down, rolling and bouncing across the floor. Penelope let out a horrified gasp, her perfectly organized world crumbling before her very eyes. But oh no, it wasn't over yet. The shaking of the tree was so intense that it jiggled the mantelpiece, and on that mantelpiece was a big picture of Penelope's prize-winning extra chocolatey hot cocoa, topped with a mountain of mini marshmallows. The pitcher tipped, and then launched itself into the air, a beautiful, terrible, chocolatey arc sailing across the room. The cocoa landed with a giant splat against the far wall, right next to the front door. The force of the impact, combined with the general pandemonium, caused the door to swing open with a loud bang. A blast of icy wind and swirling snow burst into the cozy cabin, extinguishing the warm, happy vibe in an instant. For a moment, everyone froze. The room was a disaster zone. The tree was tilted like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Ornaments were scattered everywhere. A modern art masterpiece of hot cocoa decorated the wall, and in the middle of it all sat Barnaby, tangled in lights, wearing a lampshade as a hat and looking utterly bewildered. It was in that sudden, shocked silence that they saw it. Framed in the open doorway, against the fury of the blizzard, was a tiny figure, a little fox kit, no bigger than one of the fallen presents, shivering and covered in snow. It looked lost and scared, and so cold. Its big, sad eyes scanned the chaotic room, and a single tiny tear froze on its fluffy cheek, and just like that, the mess didn't matter anymore. The fallen star, the spilled cocoa, the crooked tree, none of it was important. All that mattered was the little creature shivering in the storm. A new mission had just begun. This was no longer just a normal Christmas day. This was a rescue mission. In a cozy little cabin, nestled deep within a sparkling, snow-dusted forest, something truly magical was happening. The air was thick with the sweet scent of cinnamon and hot cocoa, and the sound of tiny, joyful giggles echoed off the warm wooden walls. This was the home of Gingy, a fluffy ginger cat with a heart as golden as her fur and a knack for turning even the simplest task into a grand, chaotic adventure. And today's adventure? Oh, it was a big one. Gingy and her tiny friends were just decorating their tree, but this wasn't just tree. Oh no, this was the most magnificent, most splendiferous, most gloriously green Christmas tree in the entire forest. It tickled the ceiling with its highest branches and filled the whole room with the wonderful smell of pine. It was a blank canvas, just waiting for their artistic touch, and the team was ready. First, there was Pip, a hyperactive little squirrel with more energy than a bolt of lightning. His official title was Chief of Tinsel and Lights, a role he took very seriously. Squeals with excitement. "Okay, team, Operation Twinkle is a go," he'd squeak, his tiny aviator cap askew. His plan was to wrap the lights around the tree in a perfect, dazzling spiral. The reality? He'd zip up one side, get tangled, and end up looking like a very confused, blinking ornament himself. Giggles. Whoops! Then there was Barnaby, the big, gentle bear with a heart of pure marshmallow. Barnaby was in charge of heavy ornament logistics. His movements were slow and careful and full of love. He'd pick up a delicate glass bauble with his giant paws, his brow furrowed in concentration, and whisper, "Easy does it, easy does it," before placing it gently on a branch. He treated every single ornament like a precious treasure, which, of course, it was. And you can't forget the agents of chaos themselves, the Fluff triplets, Mochi, Boba, and Chai. 3 identical, mischievous little kittens whose only job was to be cute and cause trouble. They saw the decorating not as a task, but as the world's best playground. Shiny ribbons were for tangling, jingling bells were for pouncing, and the long, dangling tinsel. Oh, that was clearly a climbing rope designed just for them. Sound of a kitten giggling. They were the official sparkle supervisors. and they were doing a fantastic job of spreading sparkle. And at the center of it all was Gingy, our clumsy, lovable hero. She was the director of this whole festive symphony. "Okay, everyone," she announced, holding a clipboard and tapping it with a candy cane. "We need more color on the left side and more jingle on the right." But as she took a very important-looking step backward to admire their work, her foot caught on a stray roll of wrapping paper. Oh no, time seemed to slow down. Dramatic gasp. A whole box of shiny, delicate ornaments flew into the air, arcing through the room like a rainbow of glass and glitter. Everyone froze, their eyes wide. But this team was a well-oiled, if clumsy, machine. Upbeat, heroic music swell. Pip zipped through the air, catching a falling star just before it hit the floor. Barnaby, with surprising agility, used his big, soft tummy to bounce a fragile glass ball safely onto a fluffy armchair. And the Fluff triplets, thinking it was a new game, managed to catch a long string of beads, immediately draping it around their necks like fabulous jewelry. Gingy herself landed with a soft in a pile of pillows, a single, perfect snowflake ornament balanced right on the tip of her nose. Laughs. "Phew, crisis averted!" They all took a breath and looked at their creation. The lights were a little tangled, the tinsel was a bit clumpy, and more than one ornament was hanging upside down. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't neat, but it was a masterpiece of joyful, festive chaos, and it was the most beautiful tree they had ever seen. But as they all stood back to admire their handiwork, their faces beaming with pride, Gingy noticed something was missing, something very, very important. She looked up and up and up, to the very tippy top of the magnificent tree. It was empty. Dramatic musical sting. "The star!" she gasped, her voice full of theatrical despair. "The grand finale! The cherry on top of our Christmas sundae! It's gone!" A wave of collective, exaggerated gasps filled the room. The Fluff triplets' ears drooped. Barnaby put a paw to his chest in shock. Pip's tiny jaw dropped. Where could the star be? The most important decoration of all was missing. The mission had just changed. This was no longer just Operation Twinkle. This was now Operation Find That Star. "Wait, what is that?" He was freezing, scared, and completely alone. No time to think. Teamwork mode. They warmed him, fed him, and gave him so much love. "Okay, deep breaths, everyone. Operation Ultimate Tree Decoration is a go, Giggles." Barnaby, our big, fluffy, and adorably clumsy bear, had the most important job of all, placing the giant, sparkly, super-duper megastar on the very top of the tree. He was wearing his favorite blue scarf and a tiny little Santa hat that looked hilarious perched between his big, round ears. He wobbled on a stepladder, his eyes wide with concentration. "Easy does it, Barnaby," he mumbled to himself, his voice a low, rumbly hum. "You are a leaf on the wind, a very large, wobbly leaf." Below him, the rest of the team was a whirlwind of festive chaos. Squeaky the squirrel, our resident project manager, was darting back and forth, his little paws a blur. He had a clipboard and was trying to direct traffic, but mostly he was just getting tangled in his own oversized checklist. "Okay, team. Tinsel deployment is at 75%. Ornament distribution is... Uh-oh." He squinted at Waffles the golden retriever, who was currently wearing a long strand of silver tinsel like a fabulous boa, prancing around the room. "Waffles! That's for the tree, not for the runway!" Waffles just barked happily, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled, sending little sparkles of tinsel flying everywhere. It was like a glitter explosion. Laughs. Then there was Penelope the penguin, who had discovered that the shiny, round ornaments were perfect for sliding across the polished wooden floor. She'd line them up, give a little running start, and belly slide right into them, sending them scattering like bowling pins. A red ornament would go flying, and Squeaky would gasp dramatically, "My baubles, my beautiful baubles." But Penelope would just pop up, give a little wiggle dance, and grab another one. It was pure, happy chaos. The air smelled like pine needles and hot cocoa, and upbeat, jingly music was bouncing through the room. Everything was perfect. "Okay, everyone, stand back," Barnaby announced, his voice filled with a slightly misplaced sense of heroism. "The moment of truth is here." He held the star high above his head. It was magnificent, covered in gold glitter that caught the light from the fireplace and sent little rainbows dancing on the walls. We all held our breath. Squeaky stopped mid-scurry. Waffles paused his tinsel parade. Penelope froze mid-slide. This was it, the grand finale. Barnaby leaned forward, stretching, just a little bit more. And then, of course, the inevitable happened. The ladder tilted. Barnaby's eyes went from concentrated to pure comical panic. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" he yelled, his arms pinwheeling. The star flew from his grasp, not onto the tree, but straight up into the air. It did a perfect, glittering somersault and then came down, right on Squeaky's head. The squirrel's eyes spun in little circles, and tiny cartoon birds tweeted around his head. The star then bounced off Squeaky, hit a lampshade which tipped over, which then nudged a stack of board games, creating a domino effect that ended with a giant bowl of popcorn flying into the air and showering down on us like delicious buttery snow. For a second, there was total silence. We were all frozen, covered in popcorn, staring at the chaos. Then Waffles started licking the popcorn off his nose. Penelope started making a popcorn angel on the floor, and we all burst out laughing. It was the best, most disastrous tree decorating ever. We were just starting to clean up, still giggling, when we heard it. A tiny, faint sound from outside. We all stopped. "Did you guys hear that?" I whispered. Waffles tilted his head, his ears perking up. It was louder this time, and it sounded sad and scared. Barnaby, ever the gentle giant, was the first to the window. He wiped away the condensation with his big paw and peered out into the swirling snow. The wind was really picking up now, howling around the corners of our cozy little cabin. The world outside had turned into a flurry of white. "What do you see, Barnaby?" Squeaky asked, climbing up the curtains to get a better look. Barnaby's face, which had been full of laughter just moments before, was now etched with concern. His big, expressive eyes grew even bigger. "Oh no," he whispered. "Oh, you guys, look." We all rushed to the window, crowding around to see. And there, huddled at the edge of the dark, snowy woods, was a tiny little shape. It was a puppy, a very small, shivering puppy, all alone in the big, scary storm. It was covered in snow, and it looked so lost. It let out another little cry, a sound that went right through our warm coats and straight to our hearts. It was the saddest sound in the whole world. My heart did a little flip-flop. This wasn't part of the plan. The plan was Coco, carols, and maybe one more round of ornament bowling with Penelope. But looking at that little puppy, a new plan started to form. A much more important plan. Squeaky, for once, was speechless. His clipboard dropped to the floor with a soft thud. Penelope stopped playing with her popcorn and waddled over, her little face full of worry. Waffles was whining softly at the door, already in full-on must-help mode. Barnaby turned away from the window, and his face was set with a new kind of determination. This wasn't clumsy, funny Barnaby anymore. This was hero Barnaby. "We can't just leave him out there," he said, his voice low and serious. "He's all alone. He needs our help." Squeaky, snapping out of his shock, immediately went into action mode. "Right, Operation Puppy Rescue is a go. I'll need rope, a map, a thermos of warm milk. Waffles, you're on sniff duty. Penelope, you provide moral support. And slide-based distraction if we run into any grumpy snowmen." He was already scribbling furiously on a new checklist. The energy in the room completely shifted. The silly, giggly fun of tree decorating was replaced by a focused, buzzing excitement. We were a team, a rescue team. We scrambled to get our gear on. Barnaby pulled on his thickest winter jacket. Squeaky found a tiny helmet. Waffles put on his official-looking rescue dog vest, which was really just a sweater he'd decorated with markers, but he wore it with immense pride. Penelope grabbed 2 shiny ornaments, just in case. You never know. I looked around at my friends, at their brave, determined, slightly ridiculous faces. We went from decorating a tree to a full-blown, high-stakes puppy rescue mission in the middle of a blizzard. And you know what? It felt amazing. This day had everything. Laughter, chaos, popcorn showers, and now a chance to be heroes. I couldn't help but smile. This was, without a doubt, the best day ever. Sometimes, helping one soul changes everything. Would you help him? Comment below.